Jacinta, you've just become chairperson of the Irish Self Catering Federation of Ireland. How has the season been for your members?
Well, the season this year, 2019, really, being honest, quite flat.
Yeah.
But it hasn't. There hasn't been a decrease. But the biggest change, I suppose, has been the change in the pattern. You know, the later booking pattern, short breaks. Traditionally, self-catering would be the 7 nights over all the years, but now short breaks are really the norm, and it's really trying to adjust to that, because obviously you need back-to-back bookings, etc.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously there'll be plenty there that would still get the 7 nights and the 14 nights even better during the summer, but it has been okay. I mean, the level of uncertainty around Brexit and just the general air of uncertainty hasn't been great.
Yeah, certainly momentum has slowed, hasn't it, in terms of tourism?
Exactly. But in essence, I suppose, I could be putting myself out there when I say that self-catering in particular is probably the flavour of the month, because of the global platforms now shining a light on Ireland and on the self-catering style.
And how many members do you have, and what's the sort of regional spread?
Yeah, we've 135 members, but they represent nearly 5,000 properties.
Wow.
So we'd have marketing groups such as, you know, Dream Ireland, Trident Holiday Homes, Connemara, Love Connemara. They're bigger groups with more than 100 properties. Yeah. And then the individuals, of course, are the cohort. But it's very much nationwide. Yeah. And
of course you were involved with Trident. You ran Trident for a number of years, and only relatively recently stepped back from it.
Well, this is it. Here I am, 35 years later. No, I can't do the maths. 1986. I started Trident Holiday Homes.
And has over those 35 years, has the self-catering product changed much? You know, historically, was it a thatched cottage in rural Ireland? Is it that, but also something quite different now?
If you like, it's at our conference recently, we had a whole section of case studies to show exactly what you've just said. It's an interesting question, the diverse range of the product. So, yes, 50 years ago or 35 years ago when I started off, there were a lot of individuals, and I would have been probably one of the first, in fact I think I was, marketing group schemes at the level I did. And it was glorious because you had groups, so you were able to go to Dare Tour and tour operators. So I know my way around the tour operators and being recognised as having lots of product. And it grew from 8 properties in 86 right up to what we are today, over 1,000. But the individual properties are the absolute backbone of self-catering and of the essence of what the tourist is looking for. But the profile, like we had, for example, Lachlana Holiday Homes, bespoke. They have self-catering, bed and breakfast. They lease the properties from the county council. It was set up by Enda Kenny as a tourism product. Then we had John Birmingham from his cottages, which were his granny's cottages in Mullinahone in Tipperary. And he's gone into diversified into bringing in music and musicians. And then we had Neat Higgins from Adair Manor showing their luxury properties. But the one thing that I absolutely want to do going forward with this diverse range is to actually highlight that even to our own members, to everybody involved.
It is a strength.
It is. Yeah. Huge strength. Huge.
And which markets does it most appeal to? Are the Europeans? Is it Americans? Is it British?
Yeah, it would definitely German, French, Dutch.
Right. Continental Europe.
Continental Europe, the British, of course. But we've all had to. They're on our doorstep. Yeah. But the world, they're our neighbour. Yeah. But the world is our doorstep now. Is on our doorstep really. But if you'd asked me 30 years ago, do Americans use self-catering? The answer would have been absolutely no. They came and coached to us, but now we have a different profile of American, and they love self-catering. And interestingly, in our new sectoral report, it shows that 23% of bookings came from Britain for our members, 27% from the United States. Wow. I thought that was a very interesting revelation.
Yeah, and quite a change from
very big change.
Years ago.
I mean, that would have been 5%, you know, even 15 years ago. So that is where I keep going back to the global portals, without naming them all. But I'll be honest, we're very supported by Home Away, who I believe they've been in the industry, in the self-catering sector forever. And VRBO, Vacation Rental by Owner, is their big brand over in the States. And they've been doing the traditional Irish kind of house, not the group schemes, they wouldn't have touched them. But they've been they're very supportive of the Self Catering Federation, and we're very grateful to them. And I think it's because they know what we do.
Yeah, and
they respect owners.
And the quality of the product.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they know what we do, and they're from on the side of the owner.
Yeah. The big issue, of course, this year, and I know it's been a big headache for your members and for the Self Catering Federation, is the new short-term rental regulations that came in over the summer months. What's your take on that, and how has that impacted upon members? And I mean, we've talked before about this off camera, but bona fide tourism businesses such as your own really should be exempt from these new regulations. And I know that's a huge frustration for you.
It's a major frustration. It's taken up 2 years of our lives on the Executive Council. Peter Downey has just been tireless going in and out, and he's more patient than I do with politicians, I have to tell you. But the biggest thing is the lack of understanding. This legislation has been brought in and sucked a tourism product that's been operating bona fide, as you say, for decades.
Yeah. Nearly the original Irish tourism.
Correct.
Experience.
Every John Hine card, every bit of marketing in the States was come and stay in a cottage by the sea, and that's what people still want. But what's happened here, Owen, is the legislation is for planning for a second property in rent pressure zones. So it has had the effect of this. It has set up pop-up tourism, because if you were in your own home, you can rent your house for 90 days, 3 months. You can move out down to your granny and let it with no monitoring or regulation. If you're in a rent pressure zone and have been letting a holiday home for 20 years, and it's a second property, it could be a farm building that you converted or whatever, or your granny's house that you didn't want to let out, an investment property, you now have to apply for planning. And the irony is, if you're in Fermoy in County Cork, you have to apply for planning because it's a rent pressure zone. But if you're down the road in Onahincha or somewhere like that, you don't. So you're in competition with your peers and your colleagues. And one of the biggest problem we have is, I mean, obviously Airbnb, we all know Airbnb, and I listened to a very interesting podcast by Daniel Guttentag recently, and he was over here and I talking about Airbnb being a disruptor to the economy. Now, he didn't mean it in we have to jail them, but I was thinking about it and saying Ryanair would have had the same effect years ago, where they came in and they changed everything. And for us, I think there's an opportunity with all these portals, don't get me wrong, but what's happened is the housing, Department of Housing and the housing crisis here looked at this and said, all these houses could be let long term.
Yeah.
And there was,
and therefore,
we were
therefore the
shamefully
homelessness
ignored.
issue would be
Exactly.
solved. Yeah.
And we were shamefully ignored by the Department of Tourism. We've been very well supported by Fáilte Ireland, who we're up against it because we're talking about government policy. We've been very well supported by them, and they're working with us. We just believe everybody who is in the self-catering accommodation sector should be exempt from this planning.
Absolutely. You've started a 2-year term as chairperson. I think you did a stint 20 odd years ago without aging you, Jacinta. But obviously this whole short-term regulation stuff will be a big issue. But what are the other plans for those 2 years as chair of ISCF?
The biggest for me, because I know my way around, I know what group schemes are, I know individual owners because I was agent for a big UK organisation who we had to recruit properties for them. My whole feeling is that we have to get back down into the regions and do some owner networking with activity groups, attractions, etc. Because the one good thing about the profile of the customers who come to Self Catering is they're coming here for this new word, experience. They've always done that. They want the flexibility of the accommodation and to eat in or out. So we've all this concentration on food. They can buy in the farmers market. They don't just go and admire the food in the farmers market. They buy it and come back and cook it, or they eat in the restaurants. So that's a good thing. We rely heavily on what's going on in the local communities, and I plan to have at least 3 regional meetings, and really focus on that, getting people together and working together. I do think that the technology is absolutely glorious. It makes everyone's life easier, but I think in tourism, you can't hide behind technology. Still, hospitality is the key word.
Exactly.
And also during my term as chair with the Self Catering Federation, really want to look at how we can, as a federation, capitalise on all the support there. We had Brian Hart speaking at our conference about technology and marketing.
Tourism Ireland,
and Tourism Ireland, and the content. And we're not a marketing channel, we're not a marketing group, but we do have a standalone listing site. And I think if we can get good content as well to the likes of Brian's colleagues in Tourism Ireland, out to the different markets, just about self-catering, then it's up to us to make sure that we're there and we get the bookings. But we're members of ITIC, we're members of the European Holiday Homes Association, and all that intel and all that support. We need to make sure that the Self Catering Federation is piggybacking on anything we can, working with county councils, all the tourism bodies.
All that networking collaboration is absolutely critical, isn't it?
Critical. And we're always energised after the conference because everybody is so enthusiastic. So there's buckets of enthusiasm. So hopefully we can capture that.
And turn it into good business. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thanks, Owen.